Buckle up for another episode of Ghost Phasers, your Supernatural Rewatch podcast. My name is Richard, and sitting shotgun, as always, is my brother in podcasting, Reed.
The Reed you knew is gone.
No,
Bow
what?
down and love me.
I already...
I'm your new god.
Based on what?
Oh God.
What did you eat?
Let's see. Tacos. Had a bunch of just like loose pork, and I ate a bunch of like monsters from another dimension.
So what's different than every other day?
I don't know. I gotta shit.
Oh no! Let's get into it!
Ghost Phasers! We're facing ghosts, when others will not. We're ghost Phasers! Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot. Ghost Phasers! We're facing nightmare, we're facing dread. Ghost Phasers! We're facing faceless, we're facing dead.
Welcome to Ghost Phasers. Today we're discussing Season 7, Episode number 1, Meet the New Boss.
Oh my God, we're here.
That's right. And, of course, this is the first episode of a season, so what else would we be doing than being joined by, of course, our friend, returning and future guest, Kyle Clark.
I'm back, continuing my long-term plan to continue just to get a steel-clad attachment onto the coattails of this show. I'm really
so excited.
Doing the podcast version of getting me pregnant and locking it down.
Jesus.
I feel like this episode's a milestone because I believe when we're done recording this episode,
That's right.
Kyle is finally
I can go back
free
and start
to
watching shows.
watching
Absolutely.
Supernatural.
And there is no show I've gotten into between the last episode and now that horribly puts that in jeopardy. There's no show that I've gotten into that has a massive backlog that actually is maybe one of the few shows that surpasses Supernatural.
As long as it's not anime, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, unfortunately, Richard, it is. I decided to go take a little cruise with the best little crew around on the Going Merry in a little adventure called One Piece, and that has 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, doesn't One Pice have 17,000 episodes?
Yeah, it's getting there. Look, it's only got about 5 years left, so like I'm coming in basically at the end.
Good Lord. Well, I'm so happy to have you back as usual.
I'm thrilled to be here. This was exciting. This episode was very confusing. We've hit the first one where there's continuity that's really starting to get tricky.
Some big shit happened last season.
Here's the thing. Last season as a season is a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And if you just jump from Lucifer in the cage at the end of season 5 to where we start in season 6,
Which I did.
You go, Jesus
I
Christ.
did just that.
Like 6 different things happened last season. Why?
I was only a little aware of Castiel the last time we came around. Yeah. He like popped in. They're like, "Oh, Castiel, we've explained you mid-season. No reason to bring it up now."
It's not like someone's only going to be watching the first episode of every season.
I mean, to be fair, they didn't account for this.
Well, look. I'm just gonna start saying other shows do and start to see if I can see Vulture articles about this way of watching shows. So let's just say,
I mean, someone must have done it
if you
at some
want,
point.
like I know we're all in a busy world. There's too much content. So let me introduce an idea to you. Instead of watching one episode, like just burning your life away or not doing it, do a little thing I like to call the Cliff Notes. You just do the first episode of each season, and then when people ask, you can be like, "That's okay."
I think it's got to be like the TV version of like when you write something, but then the first letter of each line spells something different.
Yeah.
You got to throw things into season premieres that if you only watch them, you get a different show.
Oh, like
experience.
in Dead Space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like a thing Lost would have done.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah.
Well, let's start talking a bit about this episode. Sure. This episode was aired on September 23rd, 2011. We're almost through 2011.
Hey, baby. And we just passed the 10-year anniversary of September 23rd of 2001.
Some good guys that day. Written by Sarah Gamble.
Yep.
So the showrunner.
She's still the showrunner this
That's
season.
right.
Yeah.
I recently just got into You.
Yeah.
And that's her show, and it's good. I don't hate that show. Directed by
Apple TV.
Yeah. Phil.
That's why I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it's Netflix. It's fine.
Okay.
Viewed by an estimated 2.01 million viewers.
Still holding. 2 million seems to be
their baseline.
Where they're
How
at.
many teen girls and adult professors at community colleges are in the United States watching at that point in America?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We know how many. It's 2 million at least.
Yeah.
But we all watched the promo,
We did.
and it was a tiny little cute promo, and I want to know what you thought about it, Kyle.
It's gonna kick your Cass.
It's so
It was
cute.
a pretty a Cass kicking preview. I have a question real quick, actually. Because I'm observing a pattern, and I'm worried that this show has broken the pattern.
Okay.
Episode titles are song titles, or just have to be lyrics?
So
I think their song titles
Because
until it
this
doesn't fit
episode
nicely.
is what I believe would be the term some bullshit if they're song titles, because this is a lyric in a song.
yes, they also sometimes will do like movie titles.
I wish I had a
they play
soundboard
pretty
set up
fast and
so I
loose
could
with it
play
in the
multiple
last
fart
season.
sounds right now at how fucking weak that is.
Yeah,
Commit to your bit.
we are into what Reed and I refer to as the Fallout Boy lyric titles now.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
You get some real long ass
Like 10-word titles.
Just went full Panic at the Disco along with everybody else. Actually, this is
Yeah.
2011. They are way late to the party.
Yeah, abs 2011. Yeah, a little bit.
I was trying to think of a Fall Out Boy lyric, and then all I could get was "Funeral for a Friend." And that was just be like, "Bend your arms to look like wings."
Jesus.
That's all I had.
Come on.
Uh,
Number one with a bullet.
Oh yeah,
Loaded
sugar
gun
going
complex.
down.
Cock it and pull it.
Wow.
When you think about it, you think to yourself sentences like, wow, fuck off, Pete Wentz.
Do you remember the early internet viral video that someone just drew stick figure animations to that song
Yes.
and what they thought the lyrics were?
I love that
Oh,
video.
There you go.
That was a really good one. Yeah.
I-
But it's true. The title is Meet the New Boss, which comes from the Who song lyrics, Won't Get Fooled Again.
Right.
So technically, yes, not
Should
an
be
actual
called Won't
title.
Get Fooled Again, or you should go find something else with a boss in it.
Fair. Absolutely fair. We've got
Combed all of music.
You could have
There
done
was
the
no-
Who's the Boss theme, and that would have worked.
so good.
I mean, that would have worked.
Yep.
Who's the boss? Also, and then or then parentheses theme as the title for the
Yeah,
episode. It's a
yeah.
song title. It has to do with the episode. It's better. We did it.
That's very fun. I mean, that's the thing this show might have done. So it's not out of the realm of
Culturally, we were
possibility.
not quite at
Might
the
have done that.
citing theme songs with parentheses in them as legitimate works cited. I think it took us a couple more years to descend that little bit further.
Absolutely. So we got a few international titles.
Yeah.
The French title.
Man with bad skin beats people up.
Yeah, I mean the French title is something dark inside. Is that
More literal.
more
Violent
literal?
erotica misdirected.
Oh, is it puke it up, Cass?
No, more literal. It's the Leviathans.
Oh,
which
well,
is
fine.
not
Fun
really
band,
what
man.
this episode's about.
It's vaguely about, but yes, yeah,
Yeah, it's more of it's what's teased at the end
sure,
of this. But,
yeah.
all right, the German title.
The German title is going to be I don't know, something
Man
dark.
reaches pure efficiency.
God's righteous path. Something like
You are so fucking close.
Yeah.
The German title is God's Wrath.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
You know, it's
Listen, I don't feel comfortable when the Germans are talking about God's wrath.
I'm truly. It's justified. It's God's wrath.
Uh-oh.
It's made with chocolate.
And the Hungarian title.
Oh, the Hungarian title is fuck you, pastor.
How did you know? No, it's just the boss.
Oh,
Oh.
I know. I know. Hungary either swings for the fences or just completely
really
fumbles the
fucking
ball.
phoning it in, Hungary.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with that one. Some few featured music from this episode. We've got These Boots Are Made for Walking by
Great
Nancy
song.
Sinatra.
Yeah.
We've got Renegade by Styx.
Another great song. One of my ones on the list of one of my top 5 most 70s songs.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Not best, most.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
And Slow Ride by Foghat. Yeah, I was waiting.
Wait, what? What's happening?
He's got a tattoo. It's a slow
I
ride.
forgot I have a high back chair.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's like Kyle's like one tattoo.
You have a slow ride
Oh, I
tattoo?
have other tattoos. Wow.
I don't know what I
got
thought
so
was
excited
happening
with the
there, but I
tattoo,
wasn't
my,
ready for that.
Headphones disconnected. All right, I'm back. Yes.
And he got that tattooed in your kitchen, or was that in
Yes,
his kitchen?
in my kitchen, and then
Yes.
partially in the backyard. We went outside for a little while. But yeah, my friend does tattoos, and a shout out to Jay Gonzo, amazing comic book artist and tattoo artist. He's doing covers for an upcoming Ninja Turtles cover that's incredible. But I had talked about for years, one of the first short stories I ever wrote that I liked that made me feel like a writer, the mom in it had a slow ride tattoo, and it was implying that she maybe had dated someone from Foghat.
That's
and
amazing.
so I, for years, had said, like, one day I'm gonna get that slow ride tattoo. And then many people said, don't do it. And then eventually I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I had a real like eat, pray, love moment when it got tattooed in my kitchen or in my dining room from my friend. And
Love
now have
that.
funny slow ride and fun 70s letters on my left shoulder blade. I was at an event when I was playing Rummy Cube with Jackie Cation and several other like Lady Road comics. It's like it was a real fun, like I got to hang out in a world that I was not supposed to be in. And one of them said slow ride, and they all sang a little bit of it, and I silently just turned around and lifted up my shirt, and they all just started screaming. And I sat back down, and they're like, what other songs do you have tattooed on your body?
Yeah, it doesn't. I imagine that's a thing that doesn't get a ton of calls to action, but when
holy
it
shit,
does,
when it
that
does,
that
it's a banger.
pops.
Oh yeah. I'm a hit at parties.
I love that. I had a friend who had a smiley face tattooed on his ass, and when he would ever moon people, he would show his smiley face off, and,
he would drop his pants anytime someone was playing Watchmen in the house.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. TV Guide describes this as
God, they just drop their pants a bunch for about 3 years and then never again.
in the Season 7 opener, Castiel assumes his new role as God and warns Sam and Dean not to interfere with him. Meanwhile, Dean tries to persuade Death to stop Castiel, and Sam struggles with the broken wall in his head.
Have we met Death before this? He was fun.
Yeah.
We meet Death near the end of season 5.
One of the best.
Death kind of gives the boys the tools to.
They seemed
reopen
awfully
the cage.
chummy, so I was like, they must have met.
Yeah.
He gives them the tools to reopen the cage to trap Lucifer, basically at the end of season 5.
So Death's kind of a bro.
Sort of.
Death kind of hangs when he feels like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's one of the coolest characters on the show.
He's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, we love him.
So may I ask a few questions to clarify, or should we finish up? Let's finish up the episode description, and then I will start asking questions.
Oh, you can ask questions right now. Yeah.
He's God, but like, what does that mean in supernatural terms?
Well, so here I'm gonna let me answer your question with an answer that doesn't answer your question. So the short version of what happened last season is we talk a lot about souls as currency. We learn that the souls of the monsters that the boys kill go to purgatory, not heaven or hell. And basically, Cass and a demon strike a deal to get those souls so they can supercharge themselves and get more power. And Cass ends up betraying the demon and sucking up all the souls. And so he's just super powerful. So he has abilities beyond
Any of the other
normal
angels. Yeah.
beyond archangels. But what does that mean? Like, does that mean he's God? Is God just a power ranking?
He's
all good questions.
Yeah, he's just referring to himself.
Okay,
as God.
so he's just there's no like mythology thing with here where he's like a capital G God that was something else and he ate up or something.
No, the last few seasons have been a big
Okay.
question mark about does God exist and where is he?
He's just hopped up on demon powder.
Yeah. The big we still haven't really solved the big we've hinted at things, but in the last few seasons we've never really answered the question like where is the actual God?
There's a lot of reference. Even in this episode, Cass says, like our father left, you need a father, stuff like that. Like God's a big question mark still at this point in the series.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want a supernatural show, and I guess like Constantine is kind of this, but where like God is just actively has opinions on shit.
Just
like not where it's like not where so okay.
Just
Ooh.
wait.
I saw Reed get a little coquettish smile.
Who, me?
Kyle, you're really gonna love Supernatural.
All right, but God better be pretty funny.
You're really gonna love Supernatural.
It's,
All right. Well, but before we start talking about today's episode, why don't we open up Dad's journal and learn about some of the real world lore?
Let's see what the lore says about Leviathans.
Ooh.
We're teasing them in this episode. We're setting them up for this season.
Wow. You're jumping right to Leviathan.
it's the
Almost
bad
like you
guy in
didn't have another
Hellraiser
thing.
2.
Baby, we've got so much to talk about this season that I'm getting Leviathan out there now.
Wow, you're dumping your Leviathan load in our mouths right now?
Yeah, well,
I try to do that before the podcast usually.
I know, but I want it on mic now.
I would appreciate if you never said the words Leviathan load again.
Well, I'm sorry for the Patreon tier. I guess you have to cancel now.
yeah. So Leviathan is a reference...
loaders.
Gross. So Leviathan is a reference to
What constitutes gross in this show is a weird nebulous bar.
Fair.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Leviathan's a reference to a mythical beast, generally described as like a big sea serpent.
Yes.
Although, depending on where you're reading or how you're translating, as is often the case with sort of biblical or biblical adjacent texts, you could get different interpretations. You can get a variation as as far as being whale-like, which I believe is the description of Leviathan in a psalm, and then to like a sea serpent, which is kind of how it appears in the book of Isaiah, to more of like a crocodile kind of entity. Oh. Thank you, Kyle. I'm going to take a slight tangent here and say that I've gone down a real rabbit hole of like scholarly of Bible scholarship. I follow a guy on TikTok that I find fascinating. His name is Dan McClellan, and basically he goes around and finds videos of people saying the Bible says this, and he goes, "It does not." And then and then he explains, like they found this text, but it's been mistranslated. It actually means this. This is like the wrong use of a verb. They're actually saying this. He talks about a whole range of things. I find it really fascinating.
Yeah.
But a big piece that he's been talking about lately, and I won't go too deep down this tangent because I'll save it for later in the show, but is the idea that that God, like Yahweh or Adonai or however people refer to it, was a patron deity for a region, for like Israel.
Oh, okay.
And that the way things have been translated have made it sound like it was always like the one monotheist one, as opposed to being a god that started absorbing the followers of other.
Oh.
So all of that to say that because there's this sort of history of like different patron deities and things like that, as with other Christian things, there are mythologies that get swept up and added in and reinterpreted through the lens of God, of Yahweh, of like the Jewish Bible. And one of them is this thing with Leviathan, because there's a story of Baal, which I think is like a Mesopotamian god.
This checks out.
And Baal slew a sea serpent named Lotan. And Lotan was supposed to be this sort of like anti-god kind of thing. And that's like a story about Baal slaying Lotan.
We've talked about that on the show before.
But then, in Isaiah, they
They're
talk
always
about
talking
Yahweh.
about Baals.
Yeah.
Fucking
Look
fuck
at
you
the
guys. You're gonna set me
balls
up. What
on
am I
you.
gonna do? Just like look at that and not, go and pick it up and have fun with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Put a PS2 in the middle of the street.
I wanted to be mad that this became ball joke, but what are you supposed to do? I mean, really.
Read, you silly, beautiful fool.
But in the book of Isaiah, then we talk about Yahweh slaying the Leviathan, which is also like something worthy of like God to actually fight.
Yeah.
We're talking about a kind of mythic beast and things like that. There's
Leviathan is sort of God's doomsday.
Yeah, it's basically like
to
that,
cite your other show.
Well, yeah, and when they thought God was dead, then 4 imposter gods showed up. For
and you
months.
eventually ended up with a blue and a red god.
Yeah.
I like the electric blue guy.
Yeah, I love electric blue god.
The electric blue god's always gonna be my favorite flavor of something.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
My partner and I recently tried to figure out what flavors we are, and while many adults would try to think of something pleasant, I immediately went to blue raspberry and was inflexible. It is
Just
the
like blue
most
raspberry.
radical flavor.
Yep.
It's a great flavor, though.
Yeah, I don't get it, but yeah.
There's
Richard, it's a flavor that tastes like a fruit that doesn't exist. What's there to not understand?
I know, but shouldn't that like break my brain? Like,
don't stare into
I understand in
the abyss.
Yeah.
Canada, you guys don't like to toy with God's will as much as we do.
yeah, like a color I can't describe. Yeah.
Yeah, you can describe it as delicious.
Yeah. Speaking of God's will, it was God's will that this majestic sea creature die, and so Yahweh kills it. In the book of
Suplexed him to
Isaiah.
death.
But it's this similar like mythological story is like the Greek myth of Typhon, or like Thor
yes.
fighting, what's the big snake's name? Jorgunmandir.
Yeah, Snorkenmere.
Yeah. All of these, like the snake is sort of almost like not a world eater, but it's supposed to represent like the anti-god.
Moon
It's
eater.
usually associated with storms and stuff like that because of the sea. And essentially it's meant to basically, I think, demonstrate the level of like power and authority of a god.
It's a real Shonen Jump move.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's not a ton written about Leviathan. Generally, sea monster, sometimes breathes fire, depending on what you're reading.
Isn't there the famous Leviathan book that's like a classic piece of literature? I feel like I vaguely remember that from my like library of Satan books in high school.
It could be, but I will say what the show is doing, and this is a thing that we talked a bit about last season, what the show is doing, and they even used the word old ones in this episode, is heavily implying that the sort of like Cthulhu style Lovecraftian elder gods
before thy gets desperate
are Leviathan. That's what's in purgatory. Yeah,
All right. So that's Leviathan.
baby.
Wow. Cool as hell. This is get ready because that's all season.
Oh my god,
Leviathan.
Can't wait
They're
to hear
coming
about
for
it.
Well, with that,
Recap.
why don't we start today's episode?
let's do it.
So we begin with the start of a new intro for the show, a new then now road so far of Supernatural.
That's right.
We've got Slow Ride.
Take it easy.
We've never gotten a road so far like this at the beginning of a season.
Yeah.
Typically that's an end of the season thing.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
No, usually it opens with a description of what happens. Because
For
that's
sure,
like the
but
thing I
not
put.
like it's in set up like this specifically.
This one does feel like it's covering more ground.
It's also just like the framing of it is slightly different.
It's got
than
more show it's got to cover at this point.
Well, truly, yeah. We're looking at the Kyle, strap in because we look at the killing of their grandfather Samuel that they had to kill,
right.
who came back to life last season.
Last season, yeah.
We've got Lucifer rising, and then Sam and Lucifer having to be put back into the cage of hell.
Yeah, from season 5.
That's right.
I
We've
find
got
that the thing that is the most difficult to follow across the entire series, season to season, is the fuck Sam is doing.
truly.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
The only real continuity shifts over the show, and it's not even really a continuity show. It is still always like Sam is fucked up and something annoying is happening. It just changes from season to season. The stakes keep getting higher.
This is
despite
the
having them
last
changed not at
season
all.
of that.
Okay, because I'm really about I'm a real about done with Sam. He's
Yeah,
a real
this is the
complainer.
halfway
He's a real,
point.
like Dean is a fuck up, but at least he like keeps me entertained
Hell
and
yeah.
like is becoming more and more of a creep as time goes on. Like he's actually getting more likable the worse he gets.
Yep.
Whereas like Sam just
1000% you're
continues
right.
to be a guy where I'm just like, we sure burn a lot of episode time that could be full of murdering or Dean making out with whoever.
So funny. Yeah, I mean, look, you and everybody else.
This is definitely a turning point for the show, though, in
1000%.
terms of how much
Is it
Sam
where
is
we
a
all
problem.
turn on Sam.
Yeah. So we've got Soulless Sam who comes back from
What are
the
the
cage.
Sam fans into? Is it just they like people who are perpetually a problem?
No, I think it's because he's enormous.
I mean, also, yeah, because the idea of like a broken man that we can save is not a thing that people are interested
Sam's
in.
barely broken. He's pre-law.
Yeah, say no more. We've got last season we had the brief Lilith.
No, not Lilith. Eve.
Eve,
the mother
sorry,
of all,
yes, Eve.
the mother of all monsters who showed up for 2 episodes.
Yes.
Did her and Dean make out?
No,
No,
and she
no
was
no
she was
makeouts.
so hot.
Horrific acid death, though.
Yeah. We've
Props
got
always to this show. It is so much more violent than it needs to be, but in a way that still totally works. And I'm constantly both reminded and surprised by it.
Yeah.
Like the show is
gotta love it.
always it is always 25% more violent than I think it's gonna be. Like,
Yep.
and that's kind of every single one of these I've done. I am again reminded the show is a little bit more like rough and tumble than I think it's gonna than I give it credit for. It's part of my thing where it's like CW, no one's given you enough credit for the decades you have gone harder than anyone was paying attention.
absolutely. So we've got Death coming in, putting the soul back in Sam's body, and then putting up a wall inside of his brain so that he doesn't lose his mind from all the memories of hell.
Right, exactly.
Castiel and Crowley working together to get all of these souls.
Because Cass is fighting a civil war in heaven against Raphael, who wants to restart the apocalypse.
Just a little small piece there.
Just a little smidgen.
Yep. And then
Castiel is good. Okay, just checking.
He was
I can't
fighting
tell his status.
He was fighting for a good cause, and he's thoroughly lost his way.
Towards the end of this episode, after he has killed several thousand people, everybody's like, "Ah, you're back. We can be bros with no consequences again."
I mean, that's where they want it to be, for sure.
I don't know. I don't miss the people Castiel got rid of.
I mean, truly. Castiel also takes in all of these souls from purgatory and then just decides that he is now a god.
Yeah.
The god.
And now we're in it.
We're in it. Picking up where the season 6 finale left off, Castiel, having proclaimed himself as god, orders Sam, Dean, and Bobby to bow down and profess their love to him. Their lord shall destroy them.
How hard were you, Richard?
So fucking hard.
It was
my
just
God.
like just
Yes,
watching
I mean,
somebody just say a word and watch three men around them supplement it to honor his power. I mean, are you kidding? Like,
yeah, the amount of fucking fan.
You wish they were all holding coffee cups.
The only thing that would have made this better for me is if Cass was a woman.
Really, though?
Yeah. I mean, well, listen, I'm not saying it didn't do it for me. I just said it would have done it more for me.
Yeah, it was awesome, and we do get that.
His answer was not no and a yes; it's a yes and a yes with several s's.
So Bobby then begins to lower down onto his knees and urges Dane and Sam to do the same.
Yeah, Bobby's right on top of it. Bobby's just like, yeah, like let's welcome to the.
No, you're God.
I also like that Bobby's just like, is this good enough, or do I have to put my head on the floor?
Yeah, is this one of those? Still looking at Castiel in amazement, Sam and Dean then start to go onto their knees, but Castiel stops them and he's like, "This is not how I wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted you to want me."
Yeah, it's not fun if you're not into it.
Yeah.
Which is a good perspective.
Yeah.
Castiel has some good impulses.
Yeah.
Sam tries to talk
Absorbing
him out of it.
Leviathan bad. Finding out that he enjoys consent good.
Yeah, that's right.
Sam tries to talk to him, but Castiel's like, "You literally stabbed me in the back, so shut the fuck up." Dean then promptly launches into a speech and begs Castiel to be a better man, but the latter replies that Castiel you knew is gone.
Yeah, and he just disappears.
Yeah. Before he does that, he does call him a brave little ant.
Yeah, which is pretty. Yeah, I mean, here I really like. I like how much they let Misha go this season in general, but in this episode, like I like a Cass who's still recognizably Cass, but has that like Dr. Manhattan distance from humanity.
It is a solid performance. I have another question with Cass.
Okay.
It's like, why that outfit for the whole thing? Is there a reason?
Yeah.
I mean, initially they literally modeled him off Constantine.
Yeah, well, because I was going to say it's weird because he's like a poor man's John Constantine, but doesn't really do any John Constantine stuff, really, because John Constantine's not an angel and shit.
No, they basically Castiel chose the body of somebody who was like a devout Christian, so he could go into his body because the angels have to like get permission to go inside.
Let me throw the pitch. Like I feel like there's a way, and again, there's still more seasons, so this could happen. I feel like it's a wasted opportunity for a character like Castiel to not have the energy of Bruce Campbell from Burn Notice. Like just Hawaiian shirts, white pants, like should just be like
You do get a glimpse of that version of
Okay,
Castiel in a
because to me,
previous
like,
season.
if you're an angel on Earth, like, why would you bother to look like fucking John
I also-
Constantine when you can wear
I think
white
we
linen
actually do get
pants?
him in the future.
I
Clothes
also feel-
literally invented by angels.
I also feel like Balthazar has an element of that
Sure.
energy too. Balthazar, an angel that we saw
It's
last
just
season.
that, like, when you think of like heaven on earth, what do you think of? Margaritaville. And so, like, it seems like it would make more sense to do that than
That's
London
sort of what
Fog.
Castiel turns into anytime he loses his angel powers.
Yeah, that's true. He kind of goes new age.
Yeah,
You go
yeah,
the closest to divinity you can get, which
Yeah.
is, you know,
absolutely.
on a banana boat, drinking boat.
I really want to go to
drinks.
Margaritaville.
There was a Margaritaville. In
All you
Niagara
have to do
Falls
is
that I
get
used
to
go
Los Angeles, Richard. They have my name on file.
I'm coming, baby. It's happening.
God, the dreaming of the day that
it's-
Keith Carey and I get to the level of success where they take pictures of us to put in the restaurant as regulars will be truly the day where I'm like, maybe I've succeeded with the last bit of thing I needed.
Truly, and I appreciate that. I love that about both of you. So yeah, he calls them his favorite pets and disappears. Castiel then sarcastically asks Sam, also how he's feeling.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what a dick. And then Dean's like, you said you'd fix him. He's like, if you didn't go against me, and I'm a man of my word, Dean. And
Yeah.
he fucks off.
Sam's nose starts to bleed and he falls to the floor, crunching
I'm Sam.
crunching glass under his hands.
Ouch.
He flashes of
Complain
his
about
time
this
in
later
hell.
too.
Castiel is now in heaven, saying how anybody who's sided with Raphael will be punished. He tells the remaining to accept him as their new god.
In heaven, everything is now fine.
Yeah. He tells them that
Yeah.
he is their father and to be obedient to him as his children. All around him, we then see dead angels littering the
Yeah,
ground.
God, Richard just constantly cheering a drink to the screen, going, perfect.
Truly. Yes, Daddy.
Exactly the way it should be done.
Yes, father.
Yes. Dean, we now see fixing the Impala.
I gotta say, I love Grease Monkey Dean.
I mean,
Yeah.
how could you not?
And there's a
Well-
moment where he's like, I should do this professionally. Like, as he's fixing up the cars, it happens a little later in the episode. He says, I should do this professionally. And I kind of out loud was like, yeah, you idiot. Why are you hunting fucking monsters?
Yes.
You dumbass.
Did he
But-
get, was it him who got the season where he got to be normal and then
Yep.
they iced his family?
Yep.
It'd be funny if like every other season he gets a happy thing and then like we just continue to see that it's clearly Sam is the element that ruins everything every time.
I mean,
No, because it kind of flips. I don't want to give away the goat,
Yeah.
but we get a little bit more of Dean being a problem.
Yeah.
in the next
Boo.
few seasons.
That means Sam has to be the anchor and there's an inherent flaw in that.
I'm glad that we're all on the same
I've
page.
seen Dean solve problems and take proactive forward-moving decisions. I have not actually seen, now again, I imagine he's doing those mid-season, but I've never seen Sam move a plot forward that didn't result, where the plot resolution wasn't, let me build more problems. Let me take on another problem. Like this is a bad, like in D&D where you like take a risk and later there's going to be something bad that happens.
God, I can't wait for you to watch this show. They can't find any sign of Castiel, but they know that he will definitely surface sooner or later. However, they don't have any weapons or knowledge on how to deal with him, as there aren't any books with this kind of information.
Yeah, so Dean's like, I'm just gonna fix the car.
I can
because
do that.
That's I know how to do that.
This is
We're
like
in-
one of the
way
best
over
scenes
it.
in the episodes. Like
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
this is few things I like better than the ones where like this slows down and like Dean has a heart to heart with somebody about something going on. There's like two or three. There's this scene with Bobby, and then there's one where he's drinking scotch in the morning
Yep.
for anime porn. Where I was just like, this is like the apex of this episode. Like this is as good as this is gonna like the action and the other stuff is great, but like just I love those little moments.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, and guess what? He's like always, Sam will eventually wake up and we'll piece whatever version of him we get back together like we always do.
It's also very Claremont X-Men energy.
Totally.
Where
But
it's
I
like,
think
which is
this-
my favorite part of it, which is the sort of like in between the big things where it's like there's problems, but right now we're doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
I mean, I think there's something to be said for Jensen's performance here too, where it's a nice quiet moment, and it feels like an even kind of rational approach to the situation they're in, but it's also very authentically Dean like stuffing down real feelings and refusing to confront like how fucking terrified he is or how worried he is for Sam or any of those things. Like it's doing two things where it's like, wow, Dean's really matured. What an interesting like take on the situation. And he's also the exact same Dean that we've seen the whole time, where he's just like, do not look this problem in the eyes.
Yes.
Well, I think it's also interesting because you do start to see, though, at this point, like, you know, Dean is perpetually getting something he wants and then it getting kicked away. He's a little bit Lisa Simpson like that. Where,
Totally.
like, he's often really putting in his all to try to make a thing good and then does it and then is still sort of boned over by it.
Yeah.
So you like, I sort of get like there's got to be that some level of him just going like, I mean, if I were in a Dean situation, there would be a certain point where I'd just like, fuck all this, the world can end. Like, I'm gonna go do some fun stuff. I'm gonna go to Disneyland and I'm gonna like, I hear that they've got legal weed in that California, and then maybe I'll like, you know, go catch a show, like, and just like, yeah, the world's gonna end, but like I finally saw, you know, The Lion King and it's magical.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's true.
As
It
Dean's
doesn't
taking
happen later seasons. There's never anything where he's like wowed by the stage power of Julie Taymor.
not that specifically.
Yeah, they do go see Spider-Man turn off the dark at one.
That'd be great. I'd be so jealous.
God, there's some good stuff with Dean coming up in the next season. So taking a break from fixing the car.
I hope
Dean
he
is in
ends
the-
up with a nice anime girl like Krieger and Archer.
That's
I'm a real reference machine on this show today. I'm
Yeah,
just,
you're doing a lot of
9:30 in the
heavy
morning.
lifting
I'm
for
pretty
other
well
shows.
caffeinated, and so I'm just like, what happened in the last 35 years?
We do get somebody this season who is an anime fan, but Dean is now in the kitchen. Sam walks in and tells Dean that he's pretty good. Besides a headache,
Everything's fine. Don't look too close.
And Dean's like, I'm happy to do that. That's
Yeah.
all I don't want to do. Sam then asks Dean about the Castiel situation, and he invites him to come help with the car while he fills him in.
Yeah.
Dean walks out, and Sam hears some noises and looks around and doesn't see anything.
I hope it's
Sam's-
not a hell vision.
Yeah,
Sam's having like nom flashbacks of hell.
absolutely. We then cut to a church called Lady of Serenity.
Yeah, and they're anything but inside.
And then we proceed to remake that scene from Dogma.
Yeah. Or Red State.
It's that said, great scene, well done. Who doesn't
absolutely.
like to
This is,
see like a
the,
bunch of
like
shitty religious people get iced?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a hate pastor being like,
Westboro, like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's like, and
It's
that's
like-
why we picket their weddings and their funerals, because they're all gonna burn in hell or whatever he's saying.
And it's like, oh man, it's always fun when something this awful becomes a fully victimless crime.
Yeah.
So just as he's talking about someone has to speak for God, Castiel walks in and telling him that who says he speaks for God and informs him that he is utterly
He
different
walks in,
to
he's like,
sexual
this is
orientation.
Run's house. Just understand.
Hell yeah.
Whose
house?
I do like that Cass comes in
That's
and goes, "You presume to speak for me?"
Yeah.
And no one in this room at any point says, "You're not God."
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Or,
let's see how this plays out.
Who are you? It would have been, the problem is that would have been cool too, because like that's what Castiel really wants somebody to question it, because then you can just explode him right there. And that's like every false god with false god powers wants somebody to question them in a big bad way, because like that's how you don't get a following to follow you in fear faster than when you like destroy their brave one.
Well, exactly.
Well, yeah, and a guy tries to stand up and Cass like wills him back into the pew and it like shatters from force. And
It's pretty cool. That
he
sequence
essentially
rips.
he murders them all for being like hateful and
Well, not all of them. He murders the pastor.
doesn't he murder all?
No,
of them?
no,
I
no,
think
no.
he-
That's a thing
doesn't he?
later.
Oh, you're right. That's
you're right.
The
You're right.
campaign
He
office.
just kills. Yeah, you're right. He just kills the pastor, but he does make sure to replace Jesus with himself in a stained glass window.
Yeah. He should have done that with finger guns. Went pew, 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 and then just all the Jesuses in the room just changed to him.
It should be a montage like the dancing sequence from Spider-Man
3, hell
but-
yes, absolutely. But it's just him replacing religious deities with himself over
I mean, I do
like,
love
some
that.
fun soft jazz.
Dig on this.
He does.
He does go to dance battle against Eric Foreman, but he just again explodes him into a mist of gore instead.
Yeah.
So funny. You could see that something is starting to bother him, though. Like the weight of all of this souls and whatever else is in him is.
He's hearing a voice that's saying like Castiel.
Yeah.
He puts his hand on a pew and it like burns.
Yeah.
And
like
he
the
just
wood of the church.
he looks at it and goes, "I can't believe I ate the whole thing." The stomach stretch scene is dope. Like when the hands reaching out, some real like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, like with the thing. Like it's
love that
this episode's imagery is great. Like this one felt as horror-y as one has had in a minute. Like this one felt more horror than action for a premiere.
Totally. And that scene either happens right after this or after we see Cass like heal a blind man. We've been getting like through this episode, we get a montage of like there's a new
he does all the bullshit that we wrote in college papers what we would do if we were God. Like I would go and destroy false religious leaders and evil politicians and help blind people see and do good to people who he does like all of he takes the exact day we would all do before we get bored and kill everyone.
Yeah, it's a real Pulp Fiction poster lit major type of God.
Holy fuck yes, that is a perfect way to put it.
but that's kind of perfect for Cass though too, because I mean even compared
to kind of basic.
Yeah.
But even compared to other angels that we've met, other angels seem better like acclimated to humanity than Cass.
Well, yeah.
Cass is like a child, you know, so then to give that power, he has such like a rudimentary view of how to use it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But he heals a blind guy and the blind guy looks at him and says, "What's wrong with your face?" And it kind of like through this episode it progresses, but it looks like Cass is getting the burning out of his skin.
Totally. We then cut to Sam in the basement of Bobby's, and he's trying to look for a tool to help fix the Impala. Yeah. And he then ends up getting another vision of hell, but this is way more vivid.
Yeah, it looks like a Doom level.
Yeah.
You see, we sent Sam to do a simple task, and he was unable to do it in a way that also ate up a lot of episode time.
Man, we haven't had some good Sam hate on this in like a season.
He is really. I got nothing for Sam anymore. I tried like.
It's so funny because we've been like sort of on his side.
We've been sort of soft on Sam.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I mean, it was the summer of Sam.
That's why, because Sam's body was so hard, we had to be soft on him.
Sam was the hottest he's ever been last season.
Yeah, but again, I feel like this is a perfect example of why both of you can't date boys, is because you get sucked into a toxic dude just because he's hot immediately.
Yeah, that's what they're good for.
Yeah, and it's not like I've done that with women too. Yeah,
but the boys will break your heart.
Absolutely.
But just one last time.
Yeah.
I want to say this one last time because we're not in it anymore. But season 6 was both the summer of Sam and the winter of my pitch a tent.
Yes, you're very proud of that joke.
It's not bad.
Moving on.
So they go up. He eventually goes upstairs, and on the television, we see the deaths of all these religious leaders. We get cuts from that Westboro church who were basically saying like, "Oh yeah, this is our new god, and he's hot." Yeah. Literally, I mean, they say,
a woman says like he had no beard, he was wearing a raincoat, he was sexy.
Yeah, very weird.
I want to
people jumping on that reboot of God immediately. It's like when we changed Brawny Men.
Dean replies that like Castiel's off the deep end at this point, and there's no slowing down. Sam suggests talking to him, but Dean says like there's no, he's not a god anymore.
When has talking ever solved the problem for us?
He's God and he's pissed. And when God gets righteous, you stay the hell out of the way. He says Castiel's never coming back. He's lied to them, used them, and cracked Sam's gourd. So there is no repairing this.
Yeah.
Dean finds it pointless to try to bring him back.
We can't possibly bring him back. That would be like trying to bring Sam back, or Dean back, or our dad back. Or Castiel back before. Like, it's that every time someone's like, I can't believe they're dead and never coming back on this show. I'm like, look, we're 7 seasons in. Every character has about 4 lives on the fucking board by now. Like, we can't keep being worried about death in the same way.
Here's the thing. You're totally right. This show totally has like this repeating kind of pattern. And yet, for some reason, it doesn't that doesn't bother me the way that like every season of Arrow, he'd be like, I need to do this alone. Be like, you have a fucking team.
Yes.
That would drive me nuts on Arrow. But on this show, I go like, yeah, I get it.
Well, I think the difference is like in Arrow, they're supposed to be like good at their job. Like it's why they're there. And
Yes.
so when they're doing a bad job, it's like, this was your only job. You're here voluntarily. Like
Right,
you are doing a bad job and insisting upon doing so. Whereas like Supernatural, like they don't have an out. Whereas like to me, like Arrow, you could like get a job.
You're rich
Right.
already.
Yeah.
Like
Fair.
you're set. You don't have to do this and you're fucking it up. Like these guys have to do this thing. So like they can make a bad call because there's just not good calls sometimes. Whereas you wear
Right,
like, a
yeah,
boxing
yeah.
glove on an arrow. You tell me
I
what
think
kind of
that's
call
fair.
that was.
I think that's fair.
We then cut to a trailer in Tennessee.
Always.
Yeah, this is where we get my boots were made for walking.
That's right.
The trailer
I love
has
it.
a bunch of like demon like symbols and
Angel
warnings and
sigils.
stuff on it.
And who is it? Hello.
It's Crowley.
It's Crowley. Crowley's fucking back. Did you get to see Crowley yet?
I can't remember if I've seen him in this show or if that's just a character actor who's in about every fifth thing I see.
It's
yes.
both.
Yes.
His career and movies I see are shockingly similar.
So Crowley showed up in season 5 to basically help the boys stop Lucifer because he realized that Lucifer, when he's done with humans and the earth, would turn on demons.
Is he related to Aleister Crowley, or is that just like a fun
Just
riff?
like a fun naming thing. He's not actually Aleister
Also,
Crowley.
I will point out the more we discuss it, I realize the plot to season 6 was all of the Lucifer stuff because he's the end of the last episode I saw, and now he's just out the picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. So I also know Lucifer not a huge threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Crowley then in season 6 with no Lucifer becomes the king of hell. He's the one that conspires with Castiel to get the souls from purgatory, and then Cass turns on him and becomes God.
Have you guys noticed every writer has a real who goes deep into like religious fantasy cannot wait to replace who's in charge of hell?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
it is
I don't
a
know
fun
what it is.
concept.
Like, I guess maybe I'm just like an old conservative who thinks that like Satan's doing a bang up job, and I don't know. I'm not looking to replace him. Like, I have been happy with the work he's been doing all these years. And I respect young ideology, and I'm open to things. But I just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm just always feel like Neil Gaiman gets him out of there. Supernatural gets him out. People love kicking the devil out of hell, and I don't.
And this show loves Gaiman. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah, I think there's like probably a healthy love for that kind of stuff.
Oh, I mean, I think anything after 1990 that is dark fantasy tinged, I feel like at a certain point, like Sandman and The Crow are just, you don't have the option to say they are not an influence on what you do because they have fundamentally changed the genre forever.
1,000%.
Totally.
So Castiel shows up and basically tells Crowley, "You're working for me now." Because Crowley's like, "Oh, you're gonna kill me."
To get smited.
Yeah, he's
They
like,
got
"All
a
right,
fun
do
vibe.
it."
It's a fun scene.
It's great. Love Crowley's energy here because he's like, I thought I hid from you. He's like, oh
Crowley's
no, I never.
such a TV character in the best way possible.
Yeah.
1,000%. He's so fun to write for. I bet.
A thing that I love about this scene, and I think it speaks to that thing that we're talking about Cass's sort of like childish view of how to use these powers, is Cass even admits in the scene, he's like, I was just going to get rid of hell, but people don't like how violent I'm being, and I need a threat, so I guess I got to keep hell, so you're going to run that.
Yeah.
Like, you can already, the wheels are already coming off the wagon.
Again, and I like that because we talk about going through like the hacky, God run, and then and it plays out the thing where like, yeah, you do all that stuff, and then there's day 2 is gone. You're like, oh fuck. Like,
But it also
step
feels
one's
like
cleaning up day 1, I guess.
It also feels like that thing where like someone like just graduates like university and then they go into a job and be like, I've got ideas, and then
holy shit, yes.
You go like, yeah, was there some stuff to improve? Yeah, and it's like, but also like there were systems in place for a reason.
So
Yes.
and also like if you're walking in thinking you're the first person who's made this suggestion, as if we've all sat at this workplace again, I am fully satisfied with the standing situation and have not made these suggestions before and found that the system is more difficult to shift than I thought.
Well, the idea that Cass was like, why would God even make a hell? Idiot. And then he's like 2 hours and he's
the
hell.
fucking he's every 19-year-old who then enters the world and is like, oh shit, all those things I knew are incorrect.
Yeah, it's when the kid. Yeah, it's like when the kid becomes principal for the day, and then they're like, "It's candy every meal." It's like, why are the kids getting sick? Like, yeah. But he basically says he's like, this isn't a negotiation. He's like, I'm giving you this. You do what I tell you when I tell you, and I'll keep you alive.
I also like the idea of hell being downsized. That,
Yes.
because Cass says he's going to take over the flow of souls. He's going to decide the direction of souls.
That's right.
An idea we kind of don't revisit until like season 11,
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
It's late. Yeah.
Takes a while for Castiel to go like, no, I was right. Like, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it right this time.
And then he disappears. Sam is now in Bobby's kitchen reading a book. When he hears some more noises, he looks around, but nobody's there. He turns his attention back to the book when suddenly pieces of the ceiling start falling down, and basically a chain comes, grabs around his neck, pulls him up, and then he wakes up and realizes that it's not actually happening.
It sucks because like we almost saw Spawn.
So close. I always love that version of hell, the like chains and hooks.
Chain
and
hell
stuff.
is a fun hell. Like
it's a good hell. I like that they subscribe to chain hell.
I've never really it never really occurred to me that like hell would be full of chains. But man, I love that some people are like hell. Oh, the chain place.
Yeah.
Does all of that trace back to Dickens?
Oh,
maybe. Oh,
Maybe.
interesting.
Does
Although
all of that go
technically
back to like the chains you forge in life?
The chains you forge in life
or
is just
it
technically part of the
earlier?
purgatory more than hell, though.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fair too. Yeah.
I do like the idea of hell, like the day that a chain was made for the first time on Earth, and they're like, "Oh,
They saw one guy with
That's
a cool.
a great a rope, but it's metal.
yeah. Oh, I know exactly where we can use those."
They saw one guy with a cool chain wallet.
Yeah.
They're like, I know what else we could do with this.
What if the wallet
Oh.
was people?
Nothing fills me with more happiness idea in the chicken of the egg scenario that the chain wallet is what chains were originally designed for, and everything else since then is coasting off the chain wallet.
This rope keeps getting frayed on my wallet.
Yeah. As to time
Well,
immemorial.
thieves
Yeah.
could still use a knife to cut the rope that was attached to your wallet in your back
Exactly.
pocket and run off with
That's
that.
what it is.
And
I
then
think
they're
we just
"Oh,
left
it's
this wide
chain.
open.
This be metal. It is. I can't be stealing this."
Wibbly dibbly.
Like
And then they're like,
medieval times, you have a chain coin purse.
"Oh, I'm late for me ship. I got to go move to the Commonwealth of Canada. I do.
Jesus Christ.
It's historically where this is going to be."
So, in the garage, Dean has finished working on the Impala, and Bobby's looking at his handiwork, and he says, I should do this professionally.
He's like, yeah.
Yes.
And pose on the hood of the car without a shirt.
yeah, more.
Yeah.
Now wash the car.
Yeah, tell the car it's
we gotta-
bad.
You could run a whole service.
But this is when we started with having the conversation where they're like, Sam's not doing good. Like, Bobby just saw him in the basement. Like
I also like that Bobby's like, are we sure Sam's all right? And Dean's like, I'm sure Sam's all right. And then Bobby's like, are you sure? And Dean's like, no.
he's like, but I'm just pretending as long as I'm allowed to pretend. And as long as he seems fine, he's going to be fine.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Dean's approach is actually not that unhealthy. At this point, Dean has been a problem. I mean, Sam has been a problem so many times that the idea that Dean should have to step out of his life every time Sam has a problem.
I mean,
I think he's setting up healthy boundaries by this point.
you're not wrong. That's a person who's been through recovery.
This is I was about to say, this is the talk of someone who has had some drug addicts in their life.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, you know what? I buy it.
Yep. But as they're having this conversation about Sam, Sam is overhearing that.
Yeah.
And he's basically like, okay. And Sam was about to just be like, I just had chains come. Oh, never.
You could totally tell in that moment that Sam's like, time to bottle up another emotion.
Yep.
It's good because they'll never tell how I'm feeling. I'm so good at hiding all of my emotions because I'm Sam. My normal chill demeanor would never give away any kind of emotions on my face or actions or basic characterization.
That's very funny.
Sam comes in and they're
Much Sam hate.
I know. I love it. It's been a while. Sam comes in and is basically like, I didn't just hear that conversation. And they're like, cool.
Are there
How are we
episodes
gonna
where
do-
Sam does good stuff out of curiosity that doesn't involve Sam immediately going to the "let me sacrifice myself to hell forever" card?
He
Seemingly
does.
the only card he owns.
I will say, you know, late
Yeah.
seasons, Sam is like a weirdly stable,
Yeah.
dependable. Like it actually starts.
He goes through all of this
it
and like
starts
learns
feeling
from it.
like a sustainable operation to hunt monsters
Yes.
when Sam gets his shit together.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
then they let Dean be
he
the
doesn't
problem.
just threat to kill himself every single time a problem arises.
Yeah, that's the first half of this series, but then it turns itself
You
around.
just got to give it 8 or 9 seasons to shake out the.
It took the writers a couple hundred episodes, so they finally figured a way to make Sam useful.
So they're like they do bring up a thing here, which we had talked about. Maybe they fully dropped, but they discuss whether they can find a weapon from the Angel Arsenal Balthazar stole.
Yeah, a dangling plot thread from last season that we never got a handle on, which was that a bunch of like heavenly weapons were stolen from heaven,
like the Ark of
and
the
are-
Covenant, and
are,
like
hidden around the world, and we never
The
solved
super
it.
shotgun from Doom.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
exactly.
the holy hand grenade from Worms Armageddon.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Do you know how much I love you that it was from Worms Armageddon and not Monty Python, you beautiful son of a bitch?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but
The Worms one is much more effective tactically. You made the right call.
the one from Holy Grail barely does anything. The
Yeah.
one from Worms Armageddon makes a big ass crater.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Sorry.
But yeah,
I
I mean,
your 90s computer games, Richard.
look, I played it. I don't remember that though.
You idiot.
Oh my god. I was too busy playing Jazz Jackrabbit and Earthworm Jim.
Hell yeah.
Man. Add that to the pile of creators we can't like
Right.
anymore.
I mean, yeah, fuck. We've always got Dilbert at least.
Can you
Uh-oh.
imagine? Here's the thing, though. When do we get our like Dilbert, Earthworm Jim, Cerebus crossover where it's just like, do we just get one super group of like asshole like characters that have fallen into disgrace?
Jesus Christ.
We call us the Expendables.
Yeah, like the characters are just constantly walking around, getting kicked out of towns, going like they're just not ready for our thoughts about things.
They do sort of just brush off the whole Angel Arsenal thing. They're like, that won't work. Because I think because the Balthazar's gone, they don't even know where they are.
I mean, that's not like an easier place to
Like,
start.
well, I know we set this up last season, but this is for something else different this season. So don't worry, it's not this, but we'll address it because I know you're thinking about it.
yeah. But Dean says, but I do know one thing.
He does.
And then they hatch this idea.
well, he's like, no, it's not about what we can use. It's who.
Yeah. They hatch this idea to bind death the way that Lucifer had bound death in season 5 until, which is why death helped the boys because he was like, this motherfucker with his fucking spell.
Yeah.
So they decided
Great portrayal of death too. Great, I love that actor.
I love Julian Richings. He's
So
amazing
fucking
in
good.
everything he does.
But he shows up. But first, they got to figure out how to get that spell. So they trap Crowley.
They trap Crowley, and I love, again, great Crowley moment where he goes like, "Oh no, not you! My boss is gonna kill me for conspiring with you. You do want to conspire, don't you?" Like,
That was great. Like,
So fucking good. It's such a great line.
the show's got jokes. The thing I
Yeah.
always respect about it is like and solid jokes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
good Crowley moment.
Dean gets to the point and tells them that they need the spell to bind death, and they quickly come up with the sort of the plan how they're going to do that.
They need ingredients, and a particular ingredient is like crystallized act of God. So they decide that means when lightning makes glass on a beach.
Yeah, which is a pretty like big leap. To
Yeah,
assume
that's
that's what that means.
I gotta gave him on that one, but I was like, this is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
This passes nothing. It's good. It's supernatural. It's gonna score out all right, but there's definitely no points this round.
Yeah, but so they find a big piece of it at a house 9 hours away that they then break into.
Yep.
Which
They
that was
tie
fun.
up I like Dean tying up the people that live well, first
That the idea that you're watching a show, because I was fascinated by that scene, because ostensibly that scene is 3 rednecks breaking into a family's home, tying them up and doing supernatural rituals in their house. Truly like a thing that like a whole subset of conservative white people are afraid is constantly happening.
Absolutely.
totally. And I here's another piece I love about that. They're breaking in, and Dean's looking around. He finds the thing, and then the guy has a shotgun on him, like the homeowner. And Dean's like,
Oh,
"I
this
don't
is
want to
great.
hurt you," and he's like, "I'm holding the gun, son." Smash cut to Dean,
Them
doing
tied
some
up.
ties on the guy.
I do
was
love that.
great.
That's
That's
whenever
a
they
real-
make
you
them
can
look effortlessly capable, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's
That's some shit you can only get away with fully 7 seasons in. Like you
Yeah.
can't
1000%.
season 2 have Dean disarm someone with a shotgun point blank at him off camera. But like by this point, when you've like last season, we've got bigger problems than the devil now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you can't be
exactly.
trifling with a fucking dude with a shotgun. Like
Absolutely. But they then do the ritual. Death shows up.
Yeah, and Death's not super pleased about. Although I will say, I love the touch that as they're setting up for the ritual,
Yeah.
they bring fast food for
Because this is a
Death.
thing we found out about Death in the last couple seasons.
He loves his fast food.
He loves fast food. It's his one sort of vice.
that's cute.
Yeah, like the first time Dean ever really meets him is at a pizza place.
I like it because
So good.
I like it because the way that Death is being played, he's like older than everything. He
Yeah.
even says in season 5, he's he and God, like he's not really sure who came first.
Yeah.
That like he's
And this is fucking all Sandman'd up. No wonder
Totally.
America was ready for Sandman years later.
1,000%.
totally.
I'd never put that because like I'm an insane Sandman person. I believe we've discussed it on the doctor's program.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And it is interesting truly because I saw pieces of it early on when we were watching this, but the more we watch it, the like more liberal they get with just like what else is in the Vertigo continuity of the
Yep.
90s.
1,000%.
But
Which again, I will. You know what I've never said is that we need less '90s Vertigo in
That's
the
fair.
world.
Who would?
Like, I've never once said that. It's like I don't want this thing that Karen Berger put together to go anywhere.
where I'm going with this though is that I like that like he's playing this very kind of like ancient, wise. I've seen it all. I know it all. He's dressed really nicely. He's got a cool ass cane. Dean is like a grease monkey, and the thing that connects them is this like fast food love. Like I like that
They
there's
have
this sort of
great
like
chemistry.
there's this sort of shorthand for like what is the one piece of middle ground of this like incomprehensible being and this like petty mortal, and I kind of enjoy that as a setup.
I always really love their sort of back and forth about this. Yeah, he offers them the best pickle chips in the state.
Yeah, I do like Death being like, do you think it's that easy to assuage me? And you're like, we've crossed a line, haven't we?
Yeah, maybe this was not the best idea. But it's interesting because immediately Death is like, so you probably hear about Sam's hallucinations, and Bobby and Dean are like,
And Sam's like, dude,
Yeah.
fucking blowing up my spot.
I think Death knew and was like annoyed, so he's like, I'm gonna cause some
1,000%.
drama with these people. Like,
1,000%.
he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
So easily. But Dean says that actually they need him to kill God. And he is surprised and asks them why he should even do that. And Dean says, because we're your boss and you gotta do what we say.
They technically have him bound. Dean's trying, but then Cass shows up, and we get a really good, I think, little little scene between Death and Cass, and Death going like, "You don't look like God to me. Like I know God. You don't look like God. You look."
Oh,
like
he gives him the
angel."
full Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
I have worked with John F. Kennedy, and you, sir, are no John F. Kennedy. But God, you get it, listener. You do some of the work this time.
I mean, you're all here for the Reagan jokes.
I do like the moment where Castiel's like, "All right, I've had enough of this. I'm going to kill you guys." So like you've relinquished all of the like appreciation I had from you from the past, and I do like it because he's going to go do it, and then Dean's like, "Look, we've got Death bound. Like, there's nothing you could do
Death
about
belongs
this.
to us. You can't kill us.
He's ours. We're the boss."
Yeah, right.
I just
Cass
love
is really putting down his cards that like fame goes to their head immediately.
Oh, absolutely. But as long as they have Death bound, they can't. Even if God pulls the trigger, they can't die. And I do love I love this because the line that Death then says, which is "annoying little protozoa, aren't they?"
Yeah.
I fucking love that. It's so good. But yeah, you basically get this like back and forth sort of tete-a-tete with Castiel and Death about sort of like look, like I'm God now, and he's like, you are not God at all.
And Death is the one who tells us what's kind of been going on with Castiel, because to Kyle's point, there was a scene earlier where we saw this hand like reaching out of like Cass's stomach, and you keep hearing like "release me" or whatever. And this is where in this scene Death explains that there were things other than souls in purgatory.
That's right.
Including the Leviathan, the first beasts, before angels, before man. The thing that was in there was out in the world were Leviathans, and they were too destructive.
Yeah.
And so God had to
create a separate place that wasn't heaven or hell.
Yeah, to lock them away.
Absolutely.
Interesting how consistently that is like a human mythology. You know, you look at the Titans in Greek mythology and all these different pieces where there's like, well, before us there was something, but they fucked that up, and now it's us, and we got to write this up.
The older thing is always the worst thing.
It's always like round one was always just violent and deadly and gigantic.
Totally. But Castiel thinks he has them under control, and Death explains to everyone that, like, yeah, this is the Leviathan, and you guys, and you're fucked. Like, he calls. I do love that they're calling him a stupid little soldier, Castiel.
Cass,
yeah, I love that.
Cass eventually flees for a reason I don't remember.
He basically he
frees Death from the.
He kind of just pieces out. He's like annoyed, so he's like, I'm out.
Yeah, and he basically just says like, Death like half-heartedly thanks Castiel, and then basically just sits down and starts eating like the meal, watching this conversation. But
I love how tense everyone is in this room.
Yeah, but I think like at the end of the day, Castiel is sort of like still like, he's like I freed this, but like this is tentative at best. Like he knows that he's no match for Death, and so he bails.
Yeah.
And he goes and confronts. He goes to confront a senator.
Yeah, but sorry, before this happens, Death is speaking with the guys still, right? And he explains the only way to stop this from going total tits up is to get Cass to return everything to purgatory. Everything that's in him has to go back in. They're like, we can't. The ritual needs a eclipse. And he goes, I'll make another one on Sunday. I like the idea that Death is like, I'll use my moon powers. Now just make this fucking happen.
I do love the surprise from Bobby and Sam when he's like, oh, yeah, I'll just make another eclipse. And they're like, what?
I like to imagine that like somewhere else in the world, like a bunch of moths just fly into a jet engine because they weren't supposed to be there, but the eclipse fucked them up. And they just...
But they basically leave, and that's when we get Castiel at the Senators.
Yeah, at like a campaign office.
Yeah. Where he's just like, he's clearly like out of it, but he's like,
I can't remember what the senators say, but the senators saying something to the effect of like, I think kids should starve in school. Or whatever this shit is happening.
And so they end up. You basically see him black out and then wake up, and he's killed everybody.
Yeah, like the voices get too much for him, and you kind of get, I do love when Misha gets to do this, but you kind of get a like, oh, someone else is behind the eyes now kind of moment of him laughing. Yeah. And he wakes up like in a lot of blood.
He does. Yeah. He's like fully unconscious and then wakes up and covered in blood, and he sees all the people in that building were dead.
Yeah.
Which is intense. Like that, instead of just like going after and killing like just the senator, he kills
I also
everybody.
like when the boys in the next scene, I guess, are reviewing the security footage or whatever of it, and they're like, oh my god, Jesus.
Yeah, he's pretty far gone at this point. And Dean is hurt that Sam is still lying to him though, and this is the thing that they need to address now.
Yeah.
Which is he's just like,
you know that pattern that we never break out of? I'm disappointed that we haven't broken out of it.
Yeah, what a crazy thing. I thought we dealt with this, but apparently we have to deal with it once more. But they see the massacre at the campaign office, and the incumbent senator killed by a trench coat man, which was said on the news.
Yes, yeah.
But they see Castiel smiling, and they know something is wrong.
Yeah.
In Bobby's yard, Sam walks up to among a row of cars until he stops looking up and then prays to Castiel.
Yeah.
And he's just basically like, look, let us help you. Like,
he's doing it the Sam way.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk it out.
He doesn't answer. So they go back into the room, and as they're sort of starting to have a conversation, Castiel then teleports in, covered in blood, against the wall for support, and says that he heard the call.
Yeah. And he looks like really like his flesh is barely containing.
Yeah.
You know.
And he's like, I need help.
Yeah.
So they take him to the lab from the end of the previous season where they initially opened the portal.
And they need to do it there because like the blood cocktail that they needed for the ritual is already there and all that kind of stuff.
And Sam goes to find the blood as they're putting all of the pieces together. And that's when he has another hallucination.
He freaks out. But it's a much more in-depth hallucination. We have a full-on conversation with Lucifer.
That's right. Lucifer's back, baby. Mark Pellegrino, a great guy, and we love his opinions.
Yeah, put him in there with Doug Tenapel and whoever else we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Scott Adams.
And Castiel is weak against and sitting against the cabinet, and Sam is suddenly disappeared.
Yeah.
Dean goes to find the blood and just sees the jar on the ground.
But they've got no time. The eclipse is happening.
Yeah,
so Dean grabs the blood. They do the ritual. We get this kind of portal opening effect, and Cass releases all of the souls and everything back into purgatory.
Yeah.
Purgatory seals up. And it looks like he's dead briefly.
Yeah.
Dean's broken up about it. You can tell Dean was... he was being a hard case, but he loves that scamp Cass.
That's right.
But Cass comes back,
but
heals up, but not everything made it back into purgatory. The Leviathans, like I like how he describes it, like they like clung inside him, like the idea that like he couldn't even put them away, like
he couldn't purge them.
Yeah, I like it.
That's when he suddenly loses control of his body. And it's Leviathan Castiel.
Yeah.
They've taken over his body, and they get this like smiling Castiel with black veins coming through his neck. He throws the boys around and says, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Da-dum.
Leviathans are here, and this is the end of the episode. Kyle.
Yes.
What did you think of this episode? Maybe give a summation of your thoughts and then a score of 1 to 5, whatever you'd like.
I enjoyed it. It's weird. It seems like it was theoretically the most epic conceptually, and yet felt sort of the chillest pace wise. Like the one in the hospital, like the first one I watched with the dad. The stakes are so low on that compared to this, and yet that feels like Run Lola Run compared to this.
Right. Sure.
And so that I thought was interesting is just watching the show get very comfortable with itself. Because it's also, despite that, it never is slow. It cooks pretty good.
Right.
And I think that feels the most transitional of the ones. The last couple, especially like the last one, was such a thesis statement where it's like end of thing, here we go. And this one like feels less like the start of a new arc more than sort of like the shift where you go to the second trade paperback in the arc.
Right. Yeah.
And has sort of that kind of feeling where it's like, oh, you thought it was this, but it's actually this. And I find Castiel interesting because again, my unique way of looking at it, he's probably the character who gets shafted the most as far as characterization goes for things, because like I still have a good sense of just about everybody else who's come through because they're usually in one of these. But I like that it also feels like it's getting more ambitious. I think it's writing the characters 1,000 times, not even better, but just like more confidently. Right. I think I notice it the most with Dean, because Dean is so kind of one note to a certain extent for a while. I think like when you watch him leave the life, you do kind of dramatically watch his character shift a little more, because you get this his vulnerability feels earned instead of annoying and baseless, which I think it is for the first couple of seasons when he's all pissed off. I'm just like, you're awfully pissed off for a guy who largely just causes people trouble. And then as you watch him kind of become vaguely responsible and see other stuff, I think like more than Sam, he feels like one of those people who just like you see the tragedy of this kind of world of stuff, that like, oh, this is somebody who like would have been a decent guy if he'd gotten a decent shake in life. He's got a skill, he's got heart, he got a moral center, would probably be better in the world as just like a guy in it, but instead is like this demon hunter in this sort of like consistently life ruining scenario. And I think that it's interesting because I think like it's I think the knowing that the show runs such a long time after this almost changes the way I think about it watching it, I imagine, versus somebody who was watching it at the time, because I could see this reading a lot bleaker. Right. If I was like, oh, I don't know, this Supernatural show could end any time. We're already 7 seasons in. This has got to be coming close to the ending.
Right.
And so it's interesting to see them be that heavy and intense, which they always do, but really kind of like upping the game in a big change way. That again, love me some episodic television. They're able to change the games, change the character statuses without having to change the continuity, make it alienating to other viewers. What? It's almost like that's hard to do. And fucking prestige television is not doing a level of skill that stuff was. Don't know what you got till it's gone. But go watch Star Trek Voyager, another great example. Or the comic Fables. And so I think that there's a lot of fun within sort of seeing, from my point of view, like that this is the halfway point. And so this is almost like they're kind of like Empire Strikes Back stuff, for lack of a better term, in that like we're at the least emotionally connected that the boys are. They don't have a ton of like resources and stuff like that. They're spread pretty thin. Most of the people who were resources them are either dead or tainted now.
Right.
And they also sort of don't have a goal. And so I think that creates characters that are really interesting. And I imagine that the Castiel of it all, carries through and kind of like sets up whatever the new reality for the season is. Thanks to Netflix autoplay, I saw that he pukes in the lake at the beginning of the next episode, so that's interesting. And so liked it a lot. I think that it's hard to judge because this is also the first episode I've seen that did not feel fully like a self-contained episode.
Yeah.
So because of that, I almost like it a little less, because it's a little more that type of TV where it's just sort of like info dump with not a lot of like action or content to it.
Yeah.
Whereas like, even like the last one where there's a ton of stuff going, you still have like all these characters that bounce in or out and sort of exist for the episodes and have, kind of thematic elements of it, kind of like the X-Files would do, where it's like there's a thematic run through the episode that carries, or even through episodes, even though they sort of are self-contained. So I probably will give this like a 3.5, or no, I'll give it a 4, just because it is strong for what it is, but it definitely, it's not my favorite of the ones we've watched. My favorite is probably the one, I think the second one we did with like the shapeshifter thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That thing was probably my favorite of all of them. But again, that felt like a fucking TV show. Like that has some Xena DNA like a mofo. Which is what I'm always looking for.
Sins, right? Where the guy did like drink bleach and shit.
Yeah,
that's the one.
That,
that was because that, again, I was surprised the show is such a horror movie at that point.
Right.
And here we are well into the sort of like occasionally nebulous territory of like dark fantasy, where like, again, what makes Neil Gaiman so impressive about is that he can keep that shit moving. Because I think it's really easy to get caught in kind of a quagmire of like, your own magic spells and rules.
Totally.
But yeah, so enjoyed it. Looking forward to again seeing where it keeps going, and now I can dig around. And I definitely won't come into the next episode and try to describe episodes of One Piece and pass them off as Supernatural episodes. Sanji and Zoro don't become perfect Dean and Sam parallels.
All right, Reed.
I was going to say Hank and Dean because that's the Venture Brothers.
Reed, what did you think?
I mean, Kyle's right to point out that, like every season premiere obviously builds on what happened in the previous season finale, but this is the first real like cliffhanger. We're in the second half of an episode.
Yeah.
in the first half was last season's finale, right? Like this is the best of both worlds TNG, like the long summer of 1990 or whatever it was.
Except for if like Picard going into episode 2 is like still Borgy.
Yeah. So it's like we are dealing with something different that way.
Yeah.
I do think it makes it pretty exciting. Like they've got something to really kick off with. I think it's also interesting, like setting up the threat of the Leviathans. You could just do it by just having, Death say like, "Woo, watch out," But I think the idea of like,
watch out!
We spent a whole season last season talking about souls and how much power they have, and then you think of how many souls Cass sucked up, how much power he has.
Again, this is some Dragon Ball Z shit.
But we have all this display of power, and the Leviathans are still too much for him.
Yeah.
Like it's actually kind of like the best way to show off the threat of this thing. It's like it's a thing so scary God locked it away.
Yeah.
And then it's and Cass doesn't have a chance even with all of this like this megaton power of souls or whatever. So I think it's pretty effective that way. I like that they let Misha stretch, I think we've had a couple of different versions in previous episodes from previous seasons where we get to see just a slightly different version of Castiel, or when he was just playing his vessel, when he's playing Jimmy, what's his name?
Yeah, Jimmy. Jimmy Novak.
Jimmy Novak, yeah. I like getting to see him do some different things, and he gets to do that in this episode. The horror, like not horror, but like the gore, the violence is cranked up on this one. I'm excited for it, and the boys do feel like less in charge of the situation, I think, than they ever have. Like, I think there was like a roadmap to beating Lucifer, or to maybe stopping him, or whatever. But this, they feel like they're really treading water.
Not even really fully together either.
Totally.
Like, not only are they in over their heads, but they're also like not as powerful as they could be because they're scattered a little bit.
Totally. I'd also give this one a 4. I'd give this 4 stained glass Castiels.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
will give it 4 anime porn sound effects.
God, you got it to it before me.
So good.
You think I was gonna let that go?
That was one I was gonna use.
Why did I even come on this podcast years ago if I'm not leading to that?
I don't want to go too deep down this, but like when Dean is watching anime porn, he's just sitting at a kitchen table, fully
drinking
clothed
scotch
with a scotch.
Funny.
He's just watching
the layers of joke there. The more you think about it, the funnier it is, because it's just he is just truly being this like insane, unhinged human in full view of everyone as a full act of disdain.
Yeah,
like even Sam's like, I'll sit with you, but like, can you?
It's weirder that Dean isn't jerking off.
Yes. Absolutely.
I just like the idea that he's silently staring at it very intently, taking slow, methodical sips of scotch periodically, because that's so like, how better to tell everyone around you to fuck off constantly without stop than that.
The only way to do that better would be to do it on the bus.
Yes.
It's menacing. Like, I think that this is a great episode. I think that the small moments in between the action is really, really good. I think Kyle brought up a really good point with that, which is like those character performances are incredible. Just like sort of like we've dealt with everything, and it's sort of it's a thing that we see build up in Dean over the next few seasons, which is like this like, I don't fucking know, man. Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. Like it's like. They're not even attempting to try to go after
you
God.
Can
like they're just like
save the world so many times before you're like, I don't know, fucking how many times are we gonna do this? Like
exactly. And I appreciate that.
I only had to take my driver's test once. I've had to save the world 5 times.
Exactly. Like it's this interesting character thing. And I think that they're like, yeah, again, like Sam's gonna fucking get up to whatever bullshit Sam is, and we'll deal with it as we deal with it, like we always do. And I
like the idea. Well, Sam's gonna fuck this up, and Sam just nods. Like, yes, I will.
Yeah, I sure am.
That's me.
That's what I do here. It's interesting because this season really is the death of a lot of those archetypes, and so it's fun to just sort of like they're all at their wits' end with the bullshit that they've been dealing with, and I think like this
and that's how the writers feel as well.
Yeah, 100%. And so I like that component of it, which is like, yeah, we can't have a normal life. Like we have to constantly save the world. We're at a point now where we feel almost confident enough to tell Death to go fuck himself, which is interesting. Like, this show does such a great job of constantly jumping the shark, and we've talked about this a lot over the last 7 seasons, which is like the show loves to jump the shark and then go fuck you. There's a bigger shark, and or it's like there's a more smart shark.
To be fair,
or,
now we've hit a god-sized shark, so it's
yes,
interesting
there's
to
a
see,
multi-dimensional
like,
shark,
and we'll jump it on a shark.
Yeah, I mean it's
when God goes Super Saiyan next season to keep things moving, it'll be exciting.
It's so comic booky, and I think that's what I love about it, which is just like, but did you know there was a multiverse outside of this multiverse? It's like, I kind of love it. They're just like, oh no, we're not slowing down. Luckily, we never get a new 52. So I think
that's what the Winchesters is.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, kind of, yeah.
God,
so
producers the show hire me. You've heard I'm fun. I enjoy the show. I have a rich background. I love horror.
Well, the show's starting to get weird too. From what we've
fucking
heard.
Shows I want to work for more than the Winchesters.
I know.
Like,
so yeah, I think like I'm on the same page as you guys. I think like it is actually a decent episode, presenting an interesting concept. It takes all of the thing from last season, which was like, finally we got to the cool thing, which is Castiel losing his mind. That's what we want.
Yeah, it took way too long to get there.
Yeah. So I think, I'm on the same page as this, as you guys. I think I'm going to give this, I'm going to say 4 glasses of whiskey out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the anime porn was taken from me.
Yeah, sure.
Those are our reviews, and that is it for us this week. Kyle, tell people about your podcast in case they haven't subscribed.
I have a podcast called This Is Rad, where we have people on and they talk about a thing they have enthusiasm for, and we have a grand old time. I do that with Matthew Burnside, my dear podcasting brother. And so that's a fun show that's out every Wednesday. I also have a show called Everything is Scary that is me and my gal pals Amy Drolet and Jen Saunderson talking about horror movies. That is a lot less streamlined and profesh than the other show. It is mostly just 3 people talking about handsome people from the 40s, and me and Amy describing really awful things from Southeast Asian horror films that we found on YouTube.
Amazing.
But I will show it a shout out because this one's I'm very proud of this last episode of that we just did, because we did Winter 83. There's a new analog horror series. It's pretty fun. And I do about a half an hour freestyle on the history and explanation of what analog horror is that I'm pretty proud of. So if you go listen to that, but yeah, so this is around that. I also have a little label called Radland Records, and I will just shamelessly put I just this year in 2023, the year of our Lord, have put out Andy Owancio's Hard Trans, which is a 20-minute EP of all of her trans material. She's a trans gal. And then also on the other end of the spectrum, but also my other favorite album we put out is Matt Cole's Decadence, which is Matt Cole is a brilliant filth comic who has basically kind of ended up turning what was just going to be a straight comedy albums or the stuff has kind of become this weird elevated thing where it's almost like, what if Mike Birbiglia used the words face fuck? And so they're both amazing. I love both of them. Please go check out both. It's been fun because both of them have listened to each other's albums and been very sweet about both. So it's just been this kind of great thing. Also, again, I'll brag everywhere I can. Thanks to Andy Owancio, Radland Records was able to get a trans woman into iTunes top 10 before Comedy Central.
Yeah.
And we have no money. So they got it. So now it's just proof that they're bad.
Hell yeah.
Because it literally would have taken them no effort and they could have done it. And man, that's crazy. Like it's just real proof that they just don't care at all. And I can say that because I put money where my mouth is, and not even a bunch.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
So and so go support those things. And I have a record called Absolute Terror. You're free to listen to that as well. But yeah, and then I'm regularly on the Dr. DC and Ghost Chasers podcasts, and I enjoy doing both.
Yay!
Ghost Facers.
Woo!
Yeah, we've got a Patreon, patreon.com/ghostfacerspod.
I'm in that thing too. I'm all over this thing.
Just /ghostfacers. Yeah, and you can get on our Discord and join the conversation. Also, you can reach out to us through our various social media platforms.
We're at Ghostfacerspod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
That's right. And that is it for this week. Subscribe to the Dr. DC podcast, and otherwise, listen to all the Kyle shit.
I like to keep busy.
Say goodbye, Kyle.
Yeah. Goodbye, Kyle.
Say goodbye, bitch.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.